In this lesson, I'm going to show you guys how to animate a modifier. Here I have a very simple ball bounce animation. The ball's bouncing twice, and what I want to do is add a nice squash and stretch effect to it. As you can see, that I've also not only animated the position, I'm also animating the rotation, because obviously when a ball's bouncing, the rotation is going to change. So I'm going to go to my modifier list with the object selected, and I'm going to select the stretch modifier. There. And I'm going to go to auto key mode. The reason I'm going to select auto key mode is this modifier, like many modifiers, you can't animate with set key mode. So chances are, if you're having trouble and you are in set key mode, try switching over to auto key and see if that makes a difference for you. Because it's like I said, more often than not, your modifier will require you to use auto key mode. So, that being said, I'm going to create a keyframe right here to start with. And then what I'm going to do is when it gets down here, I want it to kind of stretch. So I'm going to change to like, let's go -0.5. So now, that's what I want. I want it to squash flat when it gets down to these points in the animation. I want that same one there too. Now, when it's at the peak, I still want it to kind of, be in its normal state. So I'm just going to go at the peak of these bounces and set it back to 0. And then when it goes down here, I want it to be -0.5 again. And it goes up, and I want it to be 0. So now you can see. Now, this isn't quite realistic because obviously the ball's squashing is a result of it hitting the ground. So I don't want it to start squashing until it actually hits that frame. At this point, at about frame 6, I want it to kind of stretch out in the other direction because it's accelerating as it goes down the bounce. As you can see, when I play it, it speeds up on the way down from that bounce. So I'm going to go to this frame right before it, and I'm going to expand it in the other direction. So I'm going to go to, let's try 0.25. So now, it's going to stretch and then squash, and then I want to do the same on the way up. So let's go back to 0.25. So now you can see when it does that, it's going to squash and then immediately bounce back up. So I want to do that at the both before and after both bounces. So I'm just going to add one there. And again, since this is auto key, anytime I move the time indicator and change the value, it's going to create a keyframe for me. So now let's take a look at what we have. So that's pretty good. Now, it's stretching out a little early. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to about here, and I'm going to reset it to 0 so it doesn't start stretching until a little bit later. So let's go in and add a bunch of these. So it's just a frame, 2 frames before it starts stretching. Okay, so now, since I'm only animating one direction, I was just kind of animating from my left viewport. So let's see what we got in our final state here. So now you can see that using the stretch modifier, that it's given a bit more life to our bouncing ball. And this, again, this was just using the stretch modifier. When you're animating other modifiers, be sure and check your help section. So let's say I wanted to find out the best way to animate something like, let's see, what's another good one? The FFD modifier. So let's say I want to look up the FFD. So I'm just going to go to Help, Autodesk Help, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go under the Search tab and try and find that specific modifier. Modifiers differ, so before you start animating them, it'd be best to kind of go through your Autodesk help and just make sure the best way to go about doing so.